We're on the record. Good morning, good afternoon, good noon time, everyone. It's the Finance Committee meeting, July 24th, 2024. And Michael, would you take us through?
I will try, my hand is really bad.
Oh, well, you want me to solicit someone else?
If that would be okay, yeah, writing is just not very.
James Boaz, could I impose?
Yes,
Okay, thank you so much.
even though I know there are many more other qualified people.
I know, but you have such a knack for it. All right, I'm just gonna do a roll call real quick. I don't see Laura. Paulette Burden.
Here.
Tony Burrow. Here. Cookie Courier. Bruce Dries. Here. David Borness.
Here.
Richard Handelsman.
Here.
Suzanne Sarah. Julius Silverberg. And Michael Zasco.
Here.
We have, Fausto Zappo.
I'm here.
Joanne Robinson is here, David Boaz. Tisha Caputo. Here. Dominic Renaggio. Here. Kelly Jensen.
Lady is still up to.
Stuart Richland. Jerry Tutomsky.
Not here.
David Israel is not participating, and Donald Foster. Here you go. We have a quorum. Thank you all. Could we take a look at the minutes and once you have a look at them, I would entertain a motion for the correct.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Sonia. Any changes to the minutes, so. Hearing none, I will go ahead and accept the minutes as presented. Do we have any old business that we need to follow up on? I don't recall anything being carried over from the last finance meeting. Per se. Now the new business, is to review the actual versus our budget and the delegate assembly package that was sent out to the last delegate assembly is what's attached and what I sent out. Because June has had, he's had some back and forth with closing out June this month, so I just didn't want to confuse anybody by including it. So we've got, through May that we can work with. So where do we start? I don't. Trying to see, I don't think some of you were not at the town hall meeting where we went through this, so I'm not sure to what level of detail you want to go through the budget. Item by item, we can if you want to. But I think what we need to talk about are the big items. So. First place, we're really very close as far as being on budget, except for a few outstanding items that we were aware of. So I'm just gonna, the whole point of this right now is to solicit input for the 2025 budget. What we need to do is sort of highlight those areas that are gonna be added, and then next month, we're gonna actually put pen to paper with what we're gonna propose and send it to the various committees for their approval, so. Patricia, I think the first place is transportation. Yeah, we have to look at that. Where we want to talk about taking out the
or the
The excursion.
I'm going to bring it to the meeting to see how the committee feels.
Okay.
Don had suggested, and I think it might be a good idea. I'm pretty sure that, no one wants to do it anymore, and people don't come forward, I think it will be on there. But let me know positively at the first Tuesday of next month.
Okay. Yeah, I
I
mean-
mean, I'm working on the budget as well, you just told me yesterday, so I need some time to.
Absolutely.
We're gonna take this, okay?
But I think that, the committee should actually be aware of the fact that what we're talking about is presenting to the transportation committee an elimination of excursion buses, because it's, it's not, what did we have, 4,100.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, $4,000, it's not a big amount, but it's a function that people were using. I mean, people did it, but it's become less and less of a thing for
It's
you
a
guys.
cost. I've asked as a delegate assembly and in the meetings if anyone had a suggestion as to where they would want to go. And I've had absolutely no response. And I believe that Bobby Redmond is trying to do it as well. So I don't see the need for the excursion buses if no one's going to be, they're only going to do 1 or 2 trips and they're just. It's really not that
Really, the
Can I ask, like, finally, where did the excursion buses go when they were going?
Festival, flea market, the port, they just went to the.
Yeah, where they wanted to buy the excursion.
Yes, it went to the solid waste authority.
Right.
I don't know how successful that was, I was away.
Yeah.
The boys are most of the suppliers of us themselves, don't they now? Don't they? Did they not?
Did they start?
They were, yeah, the port said that they're looking into getting a bus, but they haven't done it yet.
But we went to like a glass blowing place.
Well, and let me ask, like last year, in the pool, I did all this stuff, they went to a farm and then it right.
No, they didn't go to the farm.
Can we all just one at a time?
Is that the kind of
Yes.
excursion? Okay, so I think they like it,
Well, they didn't go to the farm, it was canceled.
it was canceled, right, that's right.
They did.
Congressman or whoever he was.
Yeah, it was canceled.
My suggestion that you would put $2,000 in the budget in case there are things that you wanna do. Just to cover it, just so you don't have to come back and say, you know,
2,000 is the-
I mean, like if you, people like going to the port. And if you gotta get a bus and spend $500, at least they'll have the money there
They're
to
not
be able.
absolutely, right, and I agree, absolutely cutting the service out.
Right, we're not cutting it,
Just reduce it a little.
right,
But it's just a small item.
right, I mean, that's my opinion there.
So if you sort of follow down, I'm just looking at the big items. I mean, right now, where did we really not do so well? In budgeting last year, because really, for all intents and purposes, the budget was just cobbled together. The treasurer never actually did it, so. the next-
Besides commingling funds, he did a good job.
Well, I don't wanna go backwards, I wanna go forward.
Cobbler was a good one, thanks, you made my day.
Alright. The next big item on here is our security. We are well over budget because at the time this budget was actually signed and sent to the management companies and, blessed by the delegate. Well, no, it never got blessed by the delegate assembly. So we had to go with what we had. What we had did not include the 5% increase that we were then given by our security company. So we're $66,000 over budget as of May. So we're gonna be like $140,000 over budget. So we need to take a deep dive into the security contract and get the exact number contract-wise. And then the fuel charge saved us a little because we converted to the electric cars. When we were doing the budgeting, and last time any budgeting was done, it was based on, I think, a $4 a gallon price on the gas vehicles. So it mitigated that, but all in all, we're still gonna wind up $100,000 over the budget. So I want to take a very deep dive in the security, so John Hess, you're in charge of security, yes?
No.
No.
Stewart.
Stewart, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm in charge of
Stewart.
the meeting.
You're in charge, the security
Lisa, in
committee,
charge of
sorry,
everything
I'm
else.
getting my chair people, you're sir.
Security.
Stuart, we have to look at that contract this month
Okay.
and
we'll
really
do it together.
find out and talk to Platinum. And say to them, we need this number, we have to know.
Okay, we'll sit and talk
And-
about it and then we'll go together.
So you're,
At
you're,
Platinum and
yeah, your security contract, and then we need to look at the fuel bills. Because we have an electric bill that's not, I don't know, we have to sort of try
An
and
electric bill,
figure,
you mean
because.
our electric bill for this building has
Right.
gone up,
Right,
it's gone up so little that I don't
it
think.
really has, oh wow, that's interesting,
It's, I don't even think it's worth your time to,
wow.
yeah.
I
It
just
hasn't
wanna-
gone up, yes, absolutely.
I just wanna verify that.
Yeah.
I just wanna, like, before I take the money out of the budget, the
Yeah.
fuel. I don't wanna take the fuel money out
Remember, we
until
put
we
in two
know.
brand new air conditioning zones, 2 new compressors.
Yeah,
and
right,
that's-
so that
that's what-
helps.
That's an efficiency there.
Yeah, which is
Honestly,
something.
I don't see any,
That's a nice savings.
Yeah.
That wasn't, because, I mean, we budgeted $41,000 for fuel,
the
so,
other thing is, with those two cars. Add up all the times they have to go get gas 2-3 times a week. Cause they
Right.
run 24 hours
there's
a
not,
day,
yeah,
they're on the
they're
property
not-
that much more.
right. So that whole thing really was to the good. Even though it looks bad, I think in the end, Richard?
Do we intend, or is there another 5% raise coming that up? for
We'll
next-
find that out from them. That's why I asked Stuart,
Okay.
please have a
There is
discussion
there is an
with
estimate.
the vendor. Yeah.
There is.
But I can shoot out an email right now.
But wasn't it 3.5 and they bumped it up to 5% or something?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. I think the contract was 3% or 3.5%,
Yeah,
but they
But they-
asked for an additional.
right.
I think we can ask, I mean, I could do it now while we're talking.
Well, I'd rather it go to the committee. I wanna try and set the precedent. I mean, if everyone here agrees, I mean,
It's not me.
that we have these standing committees. In order for them to help us do our job and solicit information from the community.
I think what we're trying to establish here, and we kind of lost it. And we talked about this earlier in the week. If you're on a committee for a major contract, you should know that contract better than me. All you have to concentrate on is that contract.
Right.
You should know it backwards and forwards. That's the real job of the committee. Know that kind of.
And really the treasurer, I mean, yes, I need to know all these things, but mostly I need to rely on the committee chairs. To provide the input. I see the treasurer as just a collection point, just overseeing and collecting information, for all the standing committees, for these kinds of things, so. Stuart, I'm gonna rely on you to work with me
Yeah,
there.
I'll talk to you during the week and we'll sit down and put a package together.
Your next item is also the landscaping and beautification money.
We had a budget of $20,000 for the landscaping. And that was consistent year after year. There were times when we really didn't use much of the budget. The biggest amount of money that was spent off that was the front, the Okeechobee beautification with the
Right.
wall and everything else, but that was done and that was it. And we haven't done much with landscape except what Donald has been doing with the trees and the bushes and so on.
Right.
But the budget, my committee was to put in plants and flowers at both entrances. And that was it,
Right,
and Donald would be taking care of the rest.
right,
We were going to put hedges up at the fence going out on Abbott Hill. But we decided not to do anything at all because of the possible construction.
Right.
And that would force us to take the fence down, the hedges and everything else.
Oh, yeah, it's a whole.
So we put everything on a hiatus and we're not gonna spend any money until that construction is finished. And we know that if we put something up, they're not gonna destroy it because they're working on the area, so we're just keeping status quo right now.
Okay,
So as long as the money is in the budget and if they, we'll see where they're at, we may not use it at all.
Mhm.
Or if we do, it'll only be for the entrances and exits, nothing else. And Donald would use whatever he does for the trees and the hedges that somebody runs through and rips out or knocks a tree down.
okay.
That's either part of it or through his budget, and that's about it. So we'll just keep the 20,000 there, probably. If we use 20% of it this year, it'll be a lot.
Okay. Now, it looks to me like between all of the tree trimming, landscaping. Everything up, up to, not including the irrigation, it looks like we're around $30,000 over. So.
Well, that's
Sounds to me like
Donald's
tree
area,
trimming.
because I had nothing to do with, what they were doing.
Say it again,
It
irrigation.
looks like it up, not including irrigation, in other words, the irrigation is a separate issue altogether. But the landscaping, trimming, etc., maintenance is around 30,000 over budget right now.
Can't imagine why, because it's per contract. I mean, we've done some additional work, but not enough for, not 30K work.
Okay, we need to probably look at that.
Yeah.
Because
Go ahead.
it's just not clear.
I'm looking at this on page 1,
Mhm.
and you have a beautification.
Right,
Well, you actually have nothing in beautification, that's for that 20,000. That's for that extra line item in that beautification budget.
and then the over budget is a negative. So that it's out of that 30,
Yeah,
it's out of the 30.
You never put it in, it was never put in as a separate line item. It should have been, it should not have been bundled with maintenance and irrigation, beautification is just a separate line item.
That was one of the reasons why we had
No,
a
he
problem
has-
with the
he has
budget
total
last year.
budget. He has but he only has he has 8,333 in the budget
I understand.
Yeah,
and no actual expense. He's not taking anything out.
In prior times. The budget was $20,000
Yeah.
and that was for landscaping through the landscape committee.
Right.
Everything else in terms of trimming the trees and knocking the coconuts down and so on and so forth. It was in Donald's purview and I always thought it was part of his budget.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
You gotta say that is, you have the regular landscape irrigation contract. You
Right.
have the Chabot irrigation contract. And then you have ancillary work like the yearly tree maintenance trim is part of the contract, but
Right.
it's billed separately.
Mhm.
And then the palm trim only in January, that's extra. And it's
Okay.
it's $2,000. But yeah, we can couple it all up and
Yeah,
make it up,
just make it cleaner.
yeah.
This all
so-
looks very confusing when you look at it from a, just an
It was
outside.
crazy and looked at it and
Yeah.
said, what the hell is this?
the way it should have been, the way it traditionally was, unification, $20,000 period. And that is the money we would use if we hired a landscaper to come in and decorate the 2 entrances.
Mhm.
Or we put some landscaping over at
over.
Dover.
Yeah, right,
And
right.
they kind of. After we did it for a year or two, it really looked very good, and then all of a sudden, somebody complained and. They never followed up on their end and we just let it go by the boards. So that was basically, yeah.
That garden at the corner of Dover is, to me, such a key piece to the community. It was insane. I live in it. It was insane that one of the presidents, she decided on her own to say, don't do that. I would love to see the beautification committee take that back.
Yeah, we could do that, it's not a problem, as long as they agree, it's on their property, we were doing them a favor. They came in, I wanna drag this out, but they
No,
came
but
to us
I remember
and
that.
said, could you decorate it, we got the plants, we put it in, it looked gorgeous, people got it at the four corners, remember?
They were marigolds.
Yeah, and you know, and it was really nice, and all of a sudden, bingo, they were all gone and that was it. And they decided to rip it out for whatever reason, and that was, we never followed up, they cleaned it up and. no color.
That's certainly something for the committee, I mean.
Yeah,
you
so
make the
we
committee-
would have to if we wanted to do it again, we're not gonna do it on our own, and we're getting permission from them.
Yes.
It really wasn't a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't it my understanding that at one point we gave them that piece of property to maintain?
No, they never gave any.
No, we were taking care of it, most of it was self-maintenance. It was really there was nothing that you did there that cost
My
any money.
archives tell me that somewhere, once they did the stones and all of that, that was turned over to Dover and to keep and maintain it. And then down through the years, somebody came in and said, we don't wanna take care of it, you go take care of it. There's someone,
I think
somewhere,
it's fair to assume, Tom, that Dover's not gonna do anything with it ever,
I know that.
and we're the community managers, so.
Okay.
Do you want your 2 installations and your 2 entrance points to look nice all year round? It's up to you.
Well, that's fine.
That's perfect committee.
Yeah, we'll
Discussion.
do some
And
research on that, and if we,
Yeah.
it's still gonna be part of the budget anyway.
Yeah.
that
I think we should
beautification.
have cactuses.
So it has nothing really to do with it, 20,000 is there, we never went over it. The biggest expense was the decoration of the entrance, that was, put in.
Mhm.
And that was it.
Your 2 installation sites are Dover and Warrington. Then you have the 2 entrances.
Right,
What I suggested years ago, we just put it into our contract, appended to our contract in with Seacrest quarterly, plan something new.
Right.
Yeah, and let them decide, let them come to you, are these okay?
And just make it.
They will be, because they'll be based on what's available at the nursery, what's good for that time of year.
unfortunately, some people that work for Seacrest are colorblind and. They really don't have any imagination, that's why we wanted to do it outside.
Their installation manager now is Regis Sussman, he does some nice work.
So that's
Speaking
a-
of,
Literally committee related.
speaking of entrances, last year and the year before, there were people that wanted some kind of holiday lights put on the trees.
Yes.
We should be including that on the budget if we're going to be doing something to that effect.
Would that be part of beautification or do we make a separate, where would we put
You
that?
could put it in beautification or you could put it in infrastructure. I would contend beautification because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
If it's included in that we make that,
So maybe,
everybody aware that there is money in there if they wanted to put some kind of lights up on the trees.
and holiday lighting.
My husband happy.
Yes, it would.
And that was the issue of the electricity and the weather impacting.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are contemplating dressing up those palms again.
I know, look,
I think what we're really looking at is our 2 guardhouses.
Okay,
right,
that was the way to
Come up
resolve
with
the
a plan.
issue, yeah.
You
You're
know,
gonna have,
and decide on the mail.
your LED
the trees.
displays will be up by then, and they're gonna have, candy cane and Santa
Yeah,
Claus sleigh,
okay.
The guardhouses are more practical because the trees they kept blowing out, if you remember.
Well, it was the electricity was getting,
It's a waste of money.
impacted by the weather.
Well, what we've been doing in the interim is Glow Cleaning Plus has been dressing up the guardhouse.
So, yeah.
At 0 cost.
And then we got the signs, don't we now?
Yeah, they're coming.
Holiday signs.
Happy holiday and everybody.
My thought that maybe.
We're good, I think we're good.
Yes, Basil.
And
My-
you've got irrigation now. To me, this is the next big item is irrigation, because we have a reserve item for it, we've got, a lot of expense, but it appears that, we're staying within reasonable amounts,
The history to the irrigation system is 10 years ago. It was Frankenstein. I mean, it literally was falling apart, cobbled together. Took about 3 years. We went from station to station and rebuilt it. Also was helping me with this. Securing them with fences, putting in new electric services. It was a significant capital expense there. But since then, but yeah, it just runs. We just take care of it.
Alright, well, it looks like we're 7,000 over, so, I mean, that to me is just normal, what things cost, they go up.
It's become something that we can predict.
Which is- Go ahead with that. Now, the next big item that you'll see on here is cable. And you wonder, why would there be $112,000 over budget? Well, apparently, when we were cobbling this last year, every year, the budget, the contract calls for an escalation of what we had. We're in year 5 of this contract. The first couple, I think we did right. I don't think it's ever budgeted correctly after that. So now we're paying for it. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to eat this budget. There's no other way to do it. We're just gonna have to budget correctly for the cable bill, because we're $112,000 off.
It's not only the cable bill, it's also that they keep raising the recovery fee.
No, it's got nothing to do with it.
No?
No, nothing, that's internet. That's the next big topic that I wanna talk about. Big topic. We've had in the broadband committee, there has been some talk because we are now starting to shift over to making it reasonable to ask our residents to make the internet an amenity. Essentially, is what we're talking about. In other words, bulk internet. Meaning people who are snowbirds, people who are, only here sporadically would be paying 12 months a year for bulk service, including internet, which those of us that are here all year and pay the bill will save, and I'm making this very round, approximately $20 a month. Our association dues will go up by $20,
But your cable fee will.
but you will have no more internet bill.
That's for those who have the internet.
Right.
I don't personally.
See what I'm saying?
We
There's
didn't,
people that don't, but we're at that point
yeah.
where there are fewer people by a fair amount that don't. So we've been watching this for the 5 years, we've been watching who has internet and who doesn't. And I've always contended, who goes on seasonal? Cause it's a feature
Sure.
of internet, you can pay as you go, you can just pay for 3-4 months while you're here. So this will change the whole complexion of that. They're down to only about 500 customers now on their seasonal program, which I think is amazing. I would have guessed it to be thousands, but Donald had brought up a good point. Security cameras. Many people have security cameras, they keep the internet.
Yeah.
So now we've got a case for saying, including it as an amenity, basically, just bulk cable and internet service, 12 months a year. So this would change this budget dramatically. Now, do we wanna do it? Do we wanna really talk about it? Do we wanna put it off till next year? That's a discussion.
Well, when I discussed it,
Delegate assembly to sign?
Well,
what I said, they have to come up with a number. Okay, before you can go anyplace, but right now, A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was a 50-50 split. Right now, 60% of the village is being penalized for the 30% of the village that doesn't have internet. So, I mean, to me, as a unit owner, if I was told that that $19 recovery fee is being held up by a third of the village not wanting internet, I would be very upset. And don't forget that $19, there's tax on top of that. So that it's costing you $20. And what does that mean? My $48 bill would go away.
Right.
Your $80 bill would be down to $25. So, but the number becomes how much when they were here 18, 19 months ago, that number was $25. So for $25 to every single unit, okay, they would have internet. And we at the time felt that since it was close to 50-50, it wasn't fair. And at that time, the recovery fee was $9 or $8. But now it's $19 and they have no intention on slowing down because there's no stopping it. They could charge $50 tomorrow and we can't say anything about it.
Well,
That's the problem.
well, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
That,
So, Richard, you had your hand up.
Yeah, a couple of things. First, the internet recovery fee, I wouldn't mind it so much if it helped us, but it doesn't. That money goes out of Century Village to Breeze Line to expand its services. We are under contract, certain services at a certain cost, can't be any changes made. And secondly, as Fausto has said, now it's at 60%. But the point is to try and get that 60% represented at the delegate assembly.
Right.
Because for some reason it has not been. And it's been voted down. Breeze Line has made 2 bulk offers and it's been voted down both times.
not at the delegate.
Not at the delegate.
It never went past the committee and the officers.
Oh,
This
thought
is
we had
just a
vote.
suggestion,
All right.
because we have until October to think about it. We easily can get them, they wanna come in and make a proposal, you
Well,
know.
we asked them to
I know.
next.
So we'll get numbers. Now, there's some various things that I want them to make sure that they tell people, like if you're gonna keep their phone service, you're gonna still pay a network recovery fee. Almost certain, at least when I was with Comcast, we did. Even if you don't have internet, it's a network recovery fee,
Well,
because the phone is operated over the internet.
Right.
It's IP service.
Right.
So, things like that.
But if it's included in your bulk,
Phone service won't be.
no, but the internet will be part of your bulk. To get that, so they can't charge you a recovery fee for a service that you're already paying. They said no bulk fee if everybody has internet.
No bulk fee in the contract. I mean, no network recovery. Hi, Chris.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
Well, we're really digging in now, so.
Perfect.
Outside the scope of the bulk contract, so there would be a fee attached?
I don't think so, I have.
Well, that's a question. That's a question because I'm just telling you that when I was at
I
Comcast,
mean,
you did pay it.
telephone, well,
It's a question.
There's also-
And I don't even know how many people have phone service nowadays. There's so few people. I mean.
Part of the issue that we had was there was a group of people that resisted this.
Of course,
Because they had their private contracts, they kept
Yes.
Comcast,
yes.
and they were working their own deals with companies that
Mhm.
provided that service. And they were vocal enough to put pressure on the committee. And so we kind of went along with
Right.
the pressure that they gave us, but a lot of these people are no longer here.
Well, I mean,
And
you
that
have to,
pressure doesn't seem to exist anymore, so what we have to do is re-examine it. And then
That's
do
what we're
what's
doing.
best for us
I think we
in the
would, and I'm glad Chris is on because he would have to deal with this. My suggestion would be to actually make up two budgets. Make a budget with an option to vote, before we vote on the budget. Vote on whether or not to go bulk. And make a case for it, maybe do it in September, when I would like to have the budget ready to go in September. We don't have to do it until the October meeting, we need to get an up or down, yes or no, or they can do line item by line item, but October is what the bylaws say I have to do.
So we would
In
need to have
September,
we would need to have a solid proposal from Breeze Line in the month of August.
yes,
Which is
yes.
something.
And that in September, we bring a budget, proposed budget with bulk cable and one without bulk cable.
with both internet.
I mean, internet, yeah.
And I'd be very interested in that from a personal standpoint, especially in what speed they offer.
Oh, it's
And
300, yeah, it's much faster.
Because, I have a problem with mine, hundreds of nights for download, but the upload, on some of my tests, I'm only getting 2.5 megabytes per second to 4.
Well,
When I run the speed test on it,
it's gonna be affected too, because this is all a streaming service.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's gonna be much faster, but keep in mind. Depending on what you're using it for, you're gonna be streaming video, it's no longer broadcast video.
oh,
So
yeah,
there's some technical issues
Yeah.
that I think should be addressed to those people that out there that are interested in the tech side of it, So I think September would be, I think, a good place to sort of present. Yeah, Chris, what I'm talking about is basically creating two budgets. So that we have one to vote on in October, and if in October they wanna do any line item vetoes, that's fine, because the line item veto is just take it out or keep it. It's not a matter of make it this, make it that.
Yeah.
So we could sort of preempt that by saying, here's one that gives you bulk cable and internet. And the other one, the only difference in the two is that one line item. Just, propose it
I
that.
think it's a great idea.
What?
I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
This is comparable to the concept that we have a bus service that everybody pays for.
Right, exactly.
Only a limited number of people use it. Well, this would be the same thing. We would have the internet for everybody, and if you wanna use it, it's there.
Yes.
And if you don't, you're gonna pay for it.
Exactly.
Right. And
And
it's,
that's it.
we've always looked at it from, does it make sense? Is it equitable?
Right.
And at this, because, the 50-50 thing was one part of it. The other part of it was that group of people, some buildings have their own bulk internet for their association, This is a whole different service. This is a whole different ball of wax. It's a streaming service. They'll tell you when they come and do it, but anyway, that from a finance committee point of view is what, hopefully, if you all agree, we'll just proceed with that and, from Wakeford Broadband to come, and then Chris and I will work it out so that next month, hopefully, we'll have something with real meat on it.
Do we have any meetings set up with Broadband?
Yes,
Yeah, they said they would bring the figure next month.
yes, yes.
So that-
And they also committed to doing a community event in the fall. I think they said November. I'm waiting for them to get back to me with some dates. So come in and present, come in November and present. So in October, hopefully we'll have a decision one way or the other. So that in November, and I'm hoping it goes our way, that, we add that service, because I think a great number of people will love it. And there's gonna be education and whatnot, but, I think, David?
This sounds great and I'm for it. But if you're going to have this. A vote in September about it, that's the time you should have Breeze Line there at the
Exactly.
building assembly.
Exactly.
I think they should have,
On the
yes,
screen.
they should,
Do it that way.
we should get them up and have a presentation.
Now, wait till November. Have them
Well, I think in November, it would be more a hands-on kind of thing, more of, this is what we're really bringing.
A technical demonstration.
Yeah, more of a,
Figured it out.
in September,
Talking about the figures.
yes, the John Persons needs to be there,
Hmm.
but then Ira. And Ira's, what's her name, the woman that came, I can't remember her name.
Melissa Krugman?
Yeah, no,
No,
so
this
you
is-
want- Ira reports to a new person. You want your-
Oh, yes, I forget her name, she came with him.
Yeah, the other day.
Alright.
It was coming, no.
No, you weren't here.
No, you weren't here.
Oh, I'm
This-
sorry.
You know. But anyway, they're two different presentations. One is the implementation, so to speak, the technical side, and one is the sales side,
We need to see.
so.
There's something else here, and I'll present this to the broadband committee too, I mean. People complain about the billing and so forth, but my sister-in-law. Has a Comcast or whoever by themselves.
Right.
And she gets 220 channels like most people do. She has a HBO included.
Right.
Now, she has no internet, no phone. Her bill is $163.73 per month.
Yeah,
That's retail, that's flat out
people
retail.
need to know what bulk does for us.
Right,
Even if, even
streaming,
with,
streaming is the way,
even with the internet,
yeah.
I'm never gonna stream, but
Well, you
even
will,
with the internet. Extra to the association dues, it's still a heck of a saving, whether it's
Yes.
going to buy this
Yeah.
by yourself.
Yes.
People lose sight of that, we do have a great deal, we really do have a
Most
great
of
deal.
Yeah.
people know that.
So, okay, let's carry on, because the cable has taken up too much time. That, we had AMR here, now we're on to ambulance, we had AMR here, I don't see them increasing, did
No,
they
they-
make any noises?
No, I don't think that they're planning any increase, but their services will be diminishing.
Keep them-
They,
okay.
they keep diminishing every few months. We did ask them for, I gave them a copy of what we were told about a year ago, what we were covered with. I saw the way that they were reading it, and I believe that there's items that they will be removing from that list,
Okay.
okay?
Now. Again, this is another area that in September, we're gonna present a budget, it's
Right.
gonna have this in it.
Right.
But maybe we could present that as well, that if you wanna keep this. If you're gonna be getting less and less service, even though the money's the same, less and less service.
Yeah.
Do we come up with something else?
Well, what most of, and again, I've been preaching it and we've been telling people, they think it's an insurance policy.
Right.
It's not, it's a service, and for $1.45 today, you can't even buy a soda. That's what they're getting, $1.45.
Right.
So as they get paid less and less, their services diminish.
Right.
Okay, we did ask them to bring something to the table, so that what services they do cover it in writing, so we can put it on in our paper like we've done in the past. We did ask them to supply something so we could put it on our TV channels,
Right.
so people know. Myself personally, the last time that I ran any kind of a number, if you take the red truck, it's $770. Their ambulance calls are close to $2,000 a ride. When you figure it out, the service,
Yeah,
you know, you had maybe, 4 years ago, we had over 400 calls. The last time we did anything, when Anna came, it was a little over 200 calls. So if you figure that out, by the amount, $135,000 a year.
Yeah.
How much each ride costs,
well.
okay?
That's.
And what people don't understand, and like we recently. Somebody got a bill for $660 because their insurance company turned down the claim. And they said, well, I have insurance for this, and they're not, what they do is they bill the insurance company. If the insurance company doesn't pay, they're going to go back to the individual to try to collect that money. Now, in that particular case, it was only the individual had to supply them with his insurance. And the insurance took care of it, and if there's a nominal fee, like we had somebody, there was a difference of $25, they write that off. But it's very hard for people to understand because they say, well, I'm covered for that, I have, insurance that covers my hair, no. Your insurance is Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, they tap into that.
So is there a case to be made for eliminating it?
We've tried several times, and every time somebody comes up and says, you know, it was wonderful, they came, they took my wife, they brought her across the street, and it didn't cost me anything,
Okay.
okay? And again, we're talking $1.45 times 12 months.
It's still
So we're talking $20 over the course of a year that somebody's paying for not having a bill. Is it worthwhile?
Okay.
You know, the numbers are what the numbers are. Myself personally, I've been saying for years, it's $135,000 that I think is could be utilized someplace else.
So should we be asking that question again? of the
Yes.
Delegate assembly.
Yes.
So maybe we do this as a separate item on the September proposed budget,
Right,
take that out.
right.
So, you
We
know.
can bring it up once we have more information that they're supposed to supply to us.
Right,
Hopefully, before we have our meeting, we can say, listen, you know, this is $135,000 that we could remove because the service that we're getting is limited.
so there again, we'll leave it on Chris.
Yes.
When he does this, you know, this make this one of those items that we're gonna say no to, take it out. You know, make it a variable to highlight as part of the presentation of the budget.
In the last 5 years that I've been tracking it, there has not been a positive reason for having this $135,000. Even though it's a minimal, from a business point of view, they're making an awful lot of money and giving us less service.
Okay,
So are we
Yeah, but
talking about ending the contract by defunding it in the budget? Because if so, I don't think that's the way this needs to go. I think this is a contract that was created by the board of directors.
Right, it needs,
And the board of directors needs to formally unmake it.
right,
okay,
but
so doing up and down
Up
separate.
and down,
yes,
it's separate from the budget.
Okay.
We wish to continue with this contract.
yes, they did.
They
They
did
did,
not want to.
But the
eliminate
committee can bring it in and put it, it's gonna have to be put in the budget because the delegates put it in there.
Right.
But the commitment needs to be made the day that we present it to the delegate assembly to say, listen. This $135,000 is not being well spent.
I guess that's why I'm saying the September budget would be where to ask that question.
But I
You know
think
what I'm
it needs to be
saying?
separate from the budget.
Make it a separate,
Right.
yeah, make it a separate discussion, just like the broadband.
I mean,
It's
the
gonna be
the last thing we want, I mean, this would be a controversial decision.
Yes,
The last thing we want is for anyone to, the last thing we would want for our board of director or unit owners to think that we somehow hoodwinked them out of their ambulance.
Yes,
They
well,
should know.
I mean, it really, if you think about it, it's the same discussion.
Yes.
as bulk internet,
yes,
Exactly right.
because what you're talking about is a 10-year contract that we're gonna get rid of.
right,
We're gonna renegotiate and they're gonna want another 10-year agreement. They're not gonna say, okay, for the remainder of 5 years, they'll never do that.
they well, a year and a half ago, they wanted a 36-month extension, they
Well,
wanted 3 years,
all right,
and that was 2 years ago.
yeah, I almost guarantee, well, anyway, I'm not guaranteeing anything.
Yeah.
I would be highly surprised if we didn't wind up with a
Right.
proposal for a major long-term new agreement.
Right.
Which, as a separate item, the board has to,
Right.
you know, so
But
if
as
we're
far,
gonna renegotiate, do both of them.
as far as the ambulance contract, it should be discussed here, and it should be discussed at your open session to
Absolutely.
make people aware
That's,
of
Yes.
the,
get the sentiment going.
get the
Yeah.
sentiment going that this $135,000 could be spent in better ways.
Right.
But even though this way, when it comes to a vote, people can vote more intelligently.
Also gives you multiple opportunities to work up the spiel. You know,
Yeah.
this is what we wanna do and this is why.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
you gotta convince people.
Yeah.
Listen, that's no.
and I like having a bottom line impact, that's why I wanna engage Chris with it. So that we get, okay, per unit owner, this is the impact it's gonna give you. You know, per month, per unit owner, everything comes down to that, you know.
Except when there's an emergency and people have to call the red truck, they're gonna be charged whatever the new price is. So like Donald said, you have to present it to the people, they voted it down, I personally never used it, I don't know if I would have to, you don't know. But I think you can't just eliminate, like you
but
say.
the things that are most relevant,
People here.
5 years ago, you had the opportunity to dial the red truck, AMR, and they would come directly to you. 5 years ago, the new contract was put by Palm Beach County where the red truck, you gotta dial 911. They took AMR out of the equation because they were losing money. They said, you know, they're making 5 years ago it was $550, now it's $770 a ride. That's money that the county wants, they're funding their fire department, they're funding with that. So if they're leaving it to the red truck to make, and we already heard. Perfect example, 3 times,
3 times, no
She asked-
emergency.
it wasn't
and
an
they
emergency, the
took
red truck took her
me.
anyway.
Well,
this
but who said it was an emergency? Was it the lady or was it?
No, it was Rose.
Oh,
It was the.
I was the patient. And the red truck, the fireman, whoever,
They made the call.
we're going,
They made the call.
they made the call, we're taking you. They didn't have to, they took me, I lay in emergency for 7 hours, nobody did anything.
Well, you were the lady, you're saying it wasn't necessary,
No, yes,
but professionals said it was.
well, a
But-
professional wanted to take me.
Again, we can't make that call, but there's more and more people that are complaining about that.
Right.
They're saying, we said, like somebody's hip went out. So it wasn't a matter of life or death, they just need to be put back and put the hip back in, and the AMR took them to the hospital.
This is like the guy who crashed into our fence a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
He says, I don't need to go to hospital, I'm going to the hospital. I said, listen, you're 89 years old and you hit your head.
Right.
That's the law, you're going to the hospital.
right,
And then, of course, he got up and he.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I have a question, so you mentioned 200 calls that came in, but why, do you know total how many calls that they called 911 instead, do you?
They have to call 911.
Okay,
All the phone calls go through 911 for the last 48 months.
alright, so
200 out of
only
5,000.
200 in this
300.
The last number we got was a little over 200 calls in 12 months.
Okay, got it.
Do you understand?
Yes, I do get it now.
You know, 4 years ago was 400.
Right,
That they came, that doesn't mean, these were calls that these are the numbers that they gave us. We came to give you service 400 times.
right.
They couldn't tell me how many people actually went, or they could have, but they didn't. They didn't give us those numbers. You know, it was
We
a
don't want to
number,
have it.
they don't want us to have it, exactly. The last time when Hannah took over, that took over, she gave it, the number was 210, 220 over a course of 12 months. Okay, so again, their transportation is dependent on 911. But if 911 gets greedy, okay, and they don't, like what happened with her, okay, they don't get the call.
Hey, Joanne, I wonder if Flock could help us with. I bet you they could give us a report every time an ambulance comes in this place.
I'll have to ask, I don't know how to,
You know, on that sidebar where it says,
Well, but,
you know, pickup
yeah.
truck or.
yeah, how to set up, yeah.
Bet you that.
We can talk to Daniel too, cause he knows better than I do how to use that system. Okay, good idea, anyway, let's get on.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and pursue that yes or no kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah,
you know.
it's gotta go to the delegates regardless.
So
Has to go to the-
September's the time to do it, like, here are the contracts that we want the delegates to decide on, so that we give you a budget that's real in October, cause this is not real, what we've been doing. All right, so now we've passed the ambulance, now we're into general and administrative. I don't think we need to go too far into any of those numbers, they are what they are. I can tell you that the audit, what I did sign in order to save $1,000 a year, it's staying at 12,500. If I signed for 2 years, since my term is 2 years, so I didn't think I was overstepping by signing that. And saving the money, because we have to, by the bylaws, we have to do an audit, so. That number is staying the same. We need to put some additional money, I think, into bookkeeping. Our expenses have gone up some. And I will have a better number to go ahead, because now we have some additional professional help to give Chris a hand with the budget and with just looking forward with Mike McCuskey, so. I wanna be sure that we put some extra money in, so next year we continue to use Mike. And CERT committee, John,
Yes,
we don't have much of a budget here for you.
I think
well, we don't spend a whole lot of
Judy asked
money.
for something, what do they need?
Do you want, I mean, is your committee working on, we talked about an antenna.
Well, what about a portable antenna and a possible ham radio?
Okay, can you get something to me over the next, say, couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean,
That way, for our next town hall, I wanna include that. See,
Okay.
what we're talking about now, I wanna put into a real budget, before the August 21st meeting. So that we really can, with the community, really look at these items that we're changing and proposing things to,
okay.
so, okay. And computer and related equipment, this is sort of near and dear to my heart. We've got, some money in there. And I think at this point, I think we have I wanna say about. Chris, what's the total budget for computer hardware and maintenance? Do you know offhand? Because we have it broken down by all of these separate categories.
Give me 1 second.
Were we going to ask Steve Hen to
Yes.
give us some updated equipment?
So I'm looking for a proposal from Steve for
Yeah.
2 different kind of things. One is.
The
I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
the approved budget for 2024 was $31,700.
Oh, 31.7,
Yes.
okay, so. And we're close, we're like $4,000 over on that, and we've had a lot of old equipment replaced, and that, you're always gonna have that. Steve is looking at doing a complete conversion, to take us, cause we've got this server, we've got, David Israel wanted everything sort of resident here, and how do I put it? He wanted the hardware to be something you could touch and feel and smell and see. And nowadays, the world does not work that way. That stuff breaks. And that stuff is susceptible to all kinds of outside influence. My opinion of the state of the world is that we have secure clouds. If you see what happened the last few days with the world going crazy because Microsoft made a change. That kind of catastrophic problem in the server we have would have taken us out for a month. But they fixed it in a couple of days because it's all cloud-based, it's all. I like to use the term matrixed. It's on a grid and it's distributed architecture, which that's one of those things we could debate forever. David Israel would never have agreed with me, and he probably, if he's listening to this, is spinning, because I believe in the cloud. I believe it has better and more security.
Yeah.
And I know Donald doesn't and David doesn't.
No, Donald loves the cloud. Donald lives in the cloud. Everything, I said everything.
All right,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, the cloud is the way to go. I
okay,
know, you got a server over there, somebody wants to hack it, you're responsible to make sure they don't hack it.
and it just
Go on the cloud.
breaks.
And you're getting an extra layer of protection.
You remember, for those of us that were in this industry a million years ago, Remember floppy disks that were actually
Yeah.
floppy?
Yeah.
Well, those things were the worst, because you would put all your blood, sweat and tears into your work. And the damn thing would get scrapped.
That's right.
And I mean, that's what we've got in there. We've got a humongous
So what we're
floppy
talking
disk
about is creating a Z drive in the cloud.
in the cloud.
Exactly.
And
And it needs
upgrading
several
the
months.
hardware that we've got, what we've got are really old machines, we don't need expensive old machines. And if you put everything up in the cloud. What we need are good scanning machines, right now, we've got these baby machines that don't really. I mean, they don't do, they're not very sophisticated, so I mean, this is kind of going out on a limb, but I talked to Steve at length about this, and he said maybe 50,000, and I said more like 75. Because we need manpower too, we have to not only do the conversion, it'll take a good year. And it will take some people from, you know, Kelly, you know what I mean? The temp agency that we use. We need some expertise to come in and do some conversion of documents and such. So it's just what I'm gonna bring to the table, in the form of something much more formal in another maybe month, sometime in August, I hope to get something from Steve, so. Don't know if that's gonna work or not, but I'm gonna bring it. So, under general and administrative costs, that's my contribution. Now, insurance, I'm really sorry that Suzanne is not here. You know, that's always a very big item for us, it's the next. Oh, I'm sorry, before I get to insurance, general counsel. We don't have much money in that budget. I think there's about $50,000 in there, that shows 20 here, but that's like for the first part of the year. We have several things that we've talked about, that we need to put some money aside for, and the North Canal being one of them, that's the part that I've been working on the budget for that. We need probably $25,000 in just legal and to buy those tax certificates and the parcels, so. That's, you know, right there, and then there's some other legal things that we wanna do. I think this building and zoning and building code stuff,
Well,
we have to start addressing it, you know, with the associations and such.
when we were renegotiating with the management company, we had stowed away X number of dollars. If I remember correctly, there was like $107.50 to $175,000 of legal that was not used.
Right.
That Ed took it and put it back into the general account.
Right.
And I think that would be a good place to start, since it was already taken out as a legal, put that in there for this year, for 2025, and then budget for the future,
Alright.
if that's possible.
I have to talk, Chris, do you, by any chance know the 2023 budget, should have had a surplus in the legal? Did it actually end up that way?
Yes.
Let's.
I'm pretty sure I remember it,
Said you made that point during that.
Yeah.
Finance
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I remember that. Now, the tricky part is, I'm not sure from an accounting point of view, how you handle that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if it was left
Where's that
over
money?
as unspent money for
Right,
legal
right.
fees, and we added it to the reserves, okay? We should be able to take it out of reserve and put it back for the legal,
That's
nothing
where-
else.
That's where I think you get into some real serious.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a
discussion.
CPA, I'm a business
I need
person.
Mike Markowski
I got
to
two
give
hands.
us.
I
Chris,
got the good
Chris,
hand and the bad hand.
Chris has a, yeah,
In 2023, there was actually an overage in legal fees. Because it had been cut down to 15,000 was the budget.
No,
We ended up spending, about 49,000, so that's why this year's budget, it was set at 50,000.
but Chris, we had, when we were negotiating with Kaplan, we were negotiating with WPRF
2022.
for 2022. We had
Oh,
$375,000.
You mean you're talking about the millennial agreement?
Yes, right, that fund, yes,
The Millennium Agreement.
yes.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
You are correct. Those funds, there was a surplus in that. Those funds were distributed amongst the rest of the. Yeah, that it was zeroed out, and the reserve was split amongst the rest of the reserve items.
Yeah, see, that's tricky. Touching that, anything in reserves
Right.
is, you gotta get a legal opinion.
Well, my understanding from what we were told from the CPA, I
Right.
took that money and put it back into the reserves. Now, if he decided to plant seeds in 10 different accounts, I don't know. But if money.
And
was
as
put
a
in-
reminder, we do. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, we do have pooled reserves as well. So moving money in between those funds is perfectly okay. We just typically don't, because we like to separate them out so that way we can keep careful track.
But you're talking about taking it out of the reserves.
Well, I don't know if he
We
pulled
put
it,
it in,
if he put it into the pooled reserves. But if Chris said if he put it into 2 different or 3 different, that's a different scenario.
We're not under the same restrictions as a 718 condominium. We mirror 718 procedure as much as possible. But there's nothing in our bylaws that say we have to go to.
but it's an interesting question,
But
it's a very good question.
my thought is very simple. Individual unit owners
Mhm.
for 4 years
Right,
put money into a legal fund
right.
to renegotiate that agreement. Okay?
Mhm.
When the agreement was done, whatever was done, there was money left over. And it should have stayed there,
Right.
but the previous treasurer decided it should go away. And I'm saying, put it back to where it belongs, which is where the unit owners originally intended it to be.
Okay, so Chris, if you would get us an exact number from the 2022, what that redistribution was, we can go ahead and formalize that before the next meeting in getting an opinion from Judah and SQ. And then we may, based on that one, just double check it with Rob.
You just want to park some money in a reserve line,
Right.
so if something comes up.
Yeah.
money's
But the
there.
money was already there, it was taken out, I'm just saying, put it back to where it was originally intended for, legal fees.
But we need to keep it like.
All right.
Because we're gonna incur operating expenses.
Absolutely,
You know.
I'm well aware.
You know what I mean, just so that. Okay.
A
So
lot-
very, very.
It doesn't have to be a management.
No.
A lot of that'll get cleaned up if we go forward, as you suggested, we're doing a reserve study.
Well, that's,
Yeah,
something else.
So, yeah,
Yeah, when we get to
we don't
reserve,
need to worry too much, I think it's a great idea
yeah,
to pull that back and have it for legal still.
Well, that's what,
And I think it's an ethical thing, not a legal thing, because Don is right, we're not beholden to 718 when it's covered.
I know.
But ethically, there's reason 718
Right,
says
they
do this.
Well, you
If
just
you
don't
take
want those
money-
questions.
No,
Those
I-
questions.
Yeah, if you take money for a
I
specific
want,
purpose through the budget,
right,
then ethically, you should be using it for that purpose, or, through another budget cycle, move it and explain that you moved it, so the vote for the budget is blessing that move.
well, my thought, again, unit owners put it in there.
Mhm.
The treasurer at the time moved it someplace else without a committee and without approval from the board of directors that voted to put it into the budget.
I agree.
So it was moved, my eyes, it was moved without consent of the board, and all I'm saying, board, let's put it back to where it was.
I like that.
okay, we're an hour and 10 minutes into this, and I don't think. I mean, insurance is insurance, we're gonna get that number, it's always a crystal ball, it doesn't look as bad from sort of the general. Chitter chatter about insurance, it's not as bad as it has been. We were lucky enough to only get a 20% bump last year. When we thought it was 30 to 50, so we're gonna have to try and take the best advice we can, and. You know, Suzanne will listen to the insurance chair. And go with that, so we'll have those numbers hopefully by, well, yes, we'll have some sort of guess by the August town hall meeting and then subsequently our next meeting. Kitchen cleaning, office supplies, you know, those things go up every year, we've gotta add a little bit of extra money and. I don't think anybody can sort of fault that. Bank service charges, well, there's an issue. We won't have those, we'll still have some service charges, but. I didn't talk about it up front, the income part of it, our cash utilization, this is the last big issue I wanna talk about. Because everything else to me is sort of. You know, things go up every year and we're gonna just add. A little bit, without much there. Cash utilization, however, is a huge topic, and I'm sorry I left it to the end, but. They're all huge today, you know, we took them that little bit and created the money market, which is doing spectacularly, I think we're up to somewhere around. $1,800 last time I checked in interest on that one little money market. And people think, oh, then just put all the money into it, you know, well, you can't do that. I mean, unless we hire a cash manager or I quit as treasurer and take over the position, and you can pay me for it. That's a full-time, real job, no kidding. And we're not in that business. We are a community association. But we should be able to make something. I yesterday got the current rate that Truist will offer us on their Cedars program, which is what the same program that Mr. Grossman brought Bank of America in to explain. And Bank of America threw out there, wow, 4%, you're gonna get 4%. Well, what they were kind of not telling you or emphasizing is that was if you go to Merrill Lynch with your money. You can also do this with Chase. Chase has a similar program, but you're going to JP Morgan with your money. I personally don't feel comfortable putting our money into any type of brokerage accounts. I feel that in today's day and age, we have enough trouble with all the electronic signatures trying to keep Truist as our bank. Right now, Truist offers a Cedars program, they will take it up to. I wanna say. $25 million. In their Cedars program, and their 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year rates are 1%. They don't, they're very conservative. Extremely.
Would that stratify everything in the same fashion that?
No, right now, you can go as little as they have a 0.5% for 4 weeks. 0.75 for 13 weeks, and then everything is 1% after that. So you can layer it, but those are the rates. CD rates are going down. I mean, unless you do promotional rates, I can get 4.5% on a promotional rate across the street at Citi for $250,000. That's it. We have to keep it insured. This is insured. Under 250, up to. Yeah, that's like what I put on, what I put in the money market is 235.
Right.
So as an account, that's separate. So the cash utilization is a big issue. People think you can get these humongous CD rates from these Cedars programs. You cannot, unless you put your money in a brokerage account. And if the community would like me to do that, I will do it. But I want 100% transparency as far as the risks involved. A brokerage is not a bank, they are managed differently. There's way more risk going to a brokerage, and your money can be tied up. We've had, no, not in the Cedars program,
Oh, okay,
yeah, in the sweeps programs.
okay. Sweet, I know.
Yeah, cause they want the money under management, you know, they just want your cash,
Right,
you know, they're gonna pay you for it because they're getting big bucks. Cause they're investing it, you know. I will do it, but I will only do it once, I'm not gonna spend my whole life managing a million different funds. If you wanna hire a money manager, I can go find out what they'll charge you a percentage to do it, I've hired money managers in the past. I don't think we wanna be in that business, it's highly taxed,
Now,
cause they're
the,
short-term investments, basically.
now, the lady that was in charge of our Truist accounts, the one from Texas,
Mhm.
is she the one that gave you this
Oh, yeah,
program?
yeah, she gave
Okay,
it to me yesterday,
okay.
I
Now, most people did not know, we actually had an account manager, Yuko did, for Truist Bank.
Oh,
That's
yeah, we
something that
had-
Mr. Grossman never realized, number one, and half the money was in a different bank where it was earning nothing.
Yeah, well,
And
it
there
was costing us
It was
$85.
costing us money.
$85 a month to keep an account, and this is just why I'm so nervous about moving this anywhere. When David and I were able to actually, David was the only person in the building that could sign for that account, by the way. So we closed it. And it's now all at Truist, and all of the people that are supposed to be authorized are authorized and can sign for that money, and it's 100% secure. Because it's in these sweep accounts. It's not making anything except for the money market portion. In order for us to get that cash, it took probably 15 phone calls a day after day after day.
Multiple days.
And 2 weeks, over 2 weeks. I was like 1 day shy of saying, we gotta go to the banking commission. Because they were just dragging their feet about it, because they just didn't wanna lose $6 million. Nor did they make any proposal for us
Right.
to alternative.
Well, no, we were paying them to play with our money.
Yeah, no, they wanted our $85, all they kept saying was, can we ask you why you're moving it? And you- Well, you know, you haven't, come up with any reason for us not to move it, you know? So, no, I wouldn't go back to, I don't wanna cast dispersion on a financial institution. Seacoast is not a huge multinational bank, Truist is. And I'm very happy, right now I can sleep at night. So I will do whatever this committee wants me to do. As far as the cash management, I would like to put a significant amount of money and earn 1%. I don't see a reason not to. If this committee and the greater community would like to move the money to a brokerage account, then I would need a large number of people to make it sort of, because there's nothing in our bylaws, it just says financial institution. And a brokerage is a financial institution. I can go back to Bank of America, I can go try and find somebody at JP Morgan.
I have a question, and this, Chris might be able to help, when we had the meeting. My understanding was that if we invest money that was put aside as a reserve money, and we made interest on it, it could only go into into that account.
That's true.
Now, that was, I got that part.
Right.
But is that taxable?
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Think so.
Yeah.
Well. Okay, so why are we going crazy to try to make a few dollars if the government is gonna eat 40% of it?
I don't think we're up to a 40% rate at this point.
Well, most capital gains is 38 to 40%, I mean, you know,
I don't know what income class it comes, I mean, I'm not.
I don't know, but
Yeah,
we're,
I'm not a
we're a corporation. And 38 to 40% is the number that rolls around in my head, I might be off, but to make $1 so that the government can make 40 cents out of it.
Well, I think that if we, you know, if we go in that direction and we start making any kind of significant amount of money, then yes, we'd have to get a tax
Okay. And
accountant to tell us
did
what.
you not ask the new CPA firm? That
Not
if
yet.
they could recommend, when we met with them, you did ask them if they had an investment person that they're working with.
Oh,
That they could recommend for us.
Yeah, and I haven't.
We
gotten
haven't,
back to
we
anybody. I
haven't moved
gotten
that far forward, okay, I'm just asking.
I haven't gotten anybody.
Okay. It's okay.
One at a time, one at a time, you know?
I can
just-
speak to the interest if you'd like.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, so the interest is not counted as capital gains.
It's not that.
It's a separate form. And I can tell you that anything we make from interest is typically going to be offset by our expenses throughout the year. Which is why if we even ever have a tax liability, it's pretty low. So I wouldn't be worried about making so much money off interest that it affects our tax burden.
Right, we're spending $3 million in a year.
Yeah, well, of course, you know, I'm not an accountant, so I don't wanna,
I'm only asking the question because I don't know the answer.
we're not in that business.
Well-
That's my sort of just general knowledge is that's not the business we're in. If it were, then yes, it would be taxable.
So then, from a layman's point of view, if we can make 1%, let's try to do that. Let's try to make that 1% so that we don't have to worry,
Right,
you know,
right,
layer it in such a way that, you know,
make some of it.
a little bit, right?
Make a, you know, I'll come up with a schedule, that I think is reasonable and just sort of, you know, have it rolling. So that we're always
Right.
sort of reinvesting it, but keeping it available without penalties.
I mean, does the committee feel that that would be something to pursue, is it just?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll come up with.
Forget about the 3, 4, and 5 and the 20%. Oh, we could become like credit cards, 39.9% interest.
But I mean, no, I'm really serious about that. There are other things out there that, yes, can be done. But there are risks involved in that. And if the community wants to be risky, they have to tell me that. And
I
it
don't-
has to be, you know,
I don't think we can. Go ahead.
When you mentioned that investments, the bylaws say financial institution. But the rest of the sentence says guaranteed by the US government.
yeah, and they are,
Right.
FDIC insures brokerages as well as banks.
Yeah,
Yes, they have a Cedars program.
so this is a question from ignorance. Why is a brokerage account more risky than the?
Just because of the regulatory environment of a brokerage.
That's you.
They can hold your money
Thank you.
up. They can charge extra fees, they can make changes literally on the fly. I mean, they do not have the same level of oversight that a bank does.
Okay.
Now, I could be wrong about that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just somebody that's been in business a long time.
Don't involve brokers, the broker would leave when you got there.
So our previous legal opinion said, to paraphrase, the instrument you're talking about is very low risk, but it is not risk free.
Right.
And that's where the point is.
That's the glue.
There really is no risk-free anything out there. There are certain risks, but to minimize those risks, it's just my own opinion. I feel that it's best to keep things managed with somebody that you really know, that you can really trust and that you've really been doing business with for many, many years. That's where the money is right now, and this is what they are offering us. You know, in the first 90 days, we've made a significant amount of money just by them managing our account for us. So you know, I'm happy to go in that direction unless the community would like me to do otherwise.
I think pretty much everybody here feels that the Cedars for 1% is where we should go.
Okay,
Unless
so we're
there's
gonna
no-
go ahead, I'm gonna put that together so that for the town hall meeting, I've got. You know, something that has real numbers on it, but I just, cause I didn't sort of publish any of that because there is a very strong sentiment, and I think a lot of people, you know. In the office, we used to call it water cooler chatter. And here it's at the pool or on the bus. The chatter is, we should be earning 4 or 5% on that money. Now, I can tell you that we can get 5% from an online bank. There's a place called Apple Bank Online, huge online bank. And there's another one called SoFi. Huge, enormous, multinational online bank. They do not have an office.
I don't like that.
No,
Blow over there.
no.
I have, the consensus in here seems to be that we can put some money into that truist. My question is to the committee, pick a number. 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, so that she has something to work with. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, we have 12 million in the reserve fund.
Yeah.
Well, 13 million in the reserve fund right now.
Right,
I would like to put a lot of it. It's, you know, I'm gonna make a schedule out to literally put $10 million in a 1% interest in a managed account, laddered, so that we can always get a couple million and always have a couple million available.
That's my question.
And that way, because
Yeah.
what catastrophe is gonna require that within, you know, short notice, we need $13 million.
Let's hope.
And there is, I mean, they're all reserve funds, they're to rebuild the community, the roads, this building, you know.
do you understand what my question was? Instead of you giving the number, let the committee come up
What would the
with a
committee
number
like me to do?
that they feel comfortable with.
Right.
So it's not the treasurer like with the other treasurer,
Yeah.
well, we're gonna take $5 million.
Yeah.
Let the committee come up with a number, you give what you think is comfortable, and if the committee agrees, then you've got the consensus of the committee and the officers to help you make that decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, as long as that's later, where there's that security that if we need it, we can get
Well,
it.
she said we can.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying, then it puts us in a much better position.
How much,
Okay.
David?
You recommend 10?
Well, what would you?
I recommend and make a motion that we author, or that we put forward the recommendation from this committee of taking $10 million in a layered form, putting it into the Cedars program.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you.
We need laddered, correct?
Yeah, so that some of it's
Yeah.
available in a month,
Yes.
some of it's available
Yeah.
in, yes.
What was your recommendation?
10 million.
That was it.
How much?
10 million.
10 million.
But
That would
knowing
get
that
it come.
some of it would be in a month.
I'll take it out in orange soda.
Yeah, and some of it would be in 3 months, and some would be 6 months,
Yeah.
and the rest a year, I wouldn't go beyond a year.
No.
It doesn't, there's no advantage to it. So,
And you call the vote?
Check.
Show of hands.
any,
Show hands.
Yeah, for-
no, we need to do a roll call.
You wanna do a roll call?
Do
vote?
it,
Well,
Let's do a roll call.
I'm in a meeting on.
David, would you? Thanks.
Motion. Please. 10 million in a ladders or a cedars program? Everybody's saying a different one.
Well, it's a laddered cedars, CDARS.
CE,
CDARS,
Like cedar, like a
like it's in.
No.
CD.
ARS.
Let's listen to one first.
ARS.
Okay. And it's for how long? 1 year?
Ranging from 4 weeks to 52 weeks. Actually. Important part.
Yes.
Sure.
Boroughs, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Start with the committee first. Laura Bedford,
Excellent.
Paulette Burdick,
yes,
Tony Burrows.
Yes.
Cookie Courier, Ruth Dries.
Yes.
David Cornett.
Yes.
Richard Hamilton,
Yes.
Susan Saranac,
Absent.
Julia Silvinger,
Absent.
Michael Zaslow,
Yes.
Fausto Fabro,
Yes.
David Boas is yes. Patricia Caputo,
yes,
Dominic Garnagia,
Yes.
Ellie Jensen,
Absent.
Stuart Richland,
Yes.
Jerry Sutowski,
Absent.
David Israel,
Absent.
motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Luann?
Great fun.
I know it's been too long and we've covered so much, but
Hello, Jimmy.
one thing I want to throw on the table. I think one of the most important things for our community to do as soon as we can. And that's the dredging of the North Canal.
Yes.
Financially. What do we need to do in this year's budget in your mind? Just start putting money away, you know, on one hand, I see we need some authorization to be able to use the reserve fund for that. Which right now, you know.
We don't know.
We don't have that, there's a line item.
No.
The other is to be, should we be putting in some of the money, so we do it, because when we finally get ownership. We finally get the engineering done, it would be sad not to have the money and move forward. And I know we don't know exactly how much, but based on what we know from the South Canal, we can think enough, we,
$1 million.
yeah, you know, I'd like. You know, I need more help in saying how to implement that, but I want the money. Is ready for that as soon as.
And I think that's part of the last big item that we need to discuss is going forward with a reserve study.
But
Because that would be probably the biggest part of a reserve study. We need an engineer to tell us really what is it gonna cost.
yes, but would that mean foregoing putting some money into it, which year would we start
You
preparing?
mean in 2024?
Yeah, you know, in the coming budget,
No, 2025.
2025.
No, that's, I definitely would like to see us budget. What did the reserve, what did that
Look,
study?
we have a full infrastructure reserve,
Right,
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 operative word infrastructure. Canals, once it becomes our
Yeah.
infrastructure,
right.
would it not be a matter of having an RFP put out, an engineer making up a plan, coming up with a number and a
Right.
contract and bringing it to the bringing it to the board of directors and
Right.
asking permission to take money out of the pooled infrastructure reserve?
Well, I mean, that certainly we could do, you know, as one separate item, but I think that doing a complete reserve study
Right.
And including both canals, because we've got the
David, you're
engineering.
saying that, should we be thinking separately and a little extra just for that project and that project alone?
Yeah,
Or adding a little bit more money to contributing to the pool reserve with the intention that we're going to take that out by adding that in. I don't know which way, I'm just.
yeah,
throwing
see,
it out.
I'm like this about it, because I just really, I know that we've made our best guess with the reserves
Right.
and the audit, and I'm going by, I don't know if you read the audit.
Yeah, I looked at the reserve.
Our auditor sort of made the comment in the audit, and everything's fine. And the comment was, your reserves, although substantial, are a guess, and they are purely a guess. Year after year after year, based on stuff that happened many years ago. So, you know, having a reserve study done to include the North Canal, this building, the guardhouses, all the property we own. And the roads, to actually get an engineer to look at the roads. And as they're constructed, what useful life is left, what's the, that.
Right,
you know,
since a reserve study is essentially a theoretical study of money,
Mhm.
would that not belong in this committee rather than
Yes.
the infrastructure committee?
Mm,
Or
yeah,
joint?
yeah, the
Or joint.
reserve study, the reserve study,
It's really a money study,
it is.
and this is the money committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be my. You know, I don't know, what did you pay for your reserve study? You know,
We. You're talking Dover, I'm not on the board and.
yeah, no, I mean, we don't know what
We're
these
talking
cost.
about non-functional.
We don't know what this reserve study would cost.
Exactly, and you know what, it probably doesn't quite relate because there's a lot more infrastructure here that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a different
And
thing
different
altogether,
engineers have to
yeah,
be-
especially the
Right,
roads.
so in the interest of moving forward, would this committee like to vote on whether to ask your manager to contact a reserve study, a
yeah.
reserve study firm and bring them in to talk to you guys and see if that's where you want to go?
That's
That's
yeah.
No, full disclosure, I have somebody in mind.
Yeah, no, I'd like to, I know there's 2 or 3 companies out there that do
Right.
it, so, you know. Would someone like to make a motion? I'll make a motion.
I don't care. I'm like-
I think give you some work to
Yeah, you something to do here.
Still paying bills through this whole. Me and Chris, by the way.
Okay.
Give David another piece of paper.
Okay, what is the actual motion?
We have one item that I don't know where we're gonna go. I have to bring it up.
Motion first.
Make the motion, make the motion.
Well, no, you're in the middle of taking a vote, you gotta,
Well,
you gotta.
he just wanted to clarify what the
What is the
motion is
actual-
for.
I know that, that's why I don't wanna be talking.
Then we'll talk,
To do
then we'll
with
talk.
money reserve. Reserves.
Who made the motion?
Tony, that's fine.
So we'll make a motion that will move forward, to bring in.
To ask Donald,
To
ask,
find a company to bring in to speak to this group. About the costs of doing a reserve study. That the motion.
Pretty much.
Move to engage a reserve study
Specialist, there you go.
there you go.
Not that I'm a very smart person.
You'll do.
Yeah. It works, it'll work.
And just so everyone understands, and we can have a little homework on this, the name of the company that I contact
I'm
is
still
called
waiting here.
Association Reserves.
Oh, I did look at that, yeah,
Look at it.
yeah, I did, I looked at them.
Okay, so
Okay, this was made by Burrows and
Yeah.
seconded by Fornes. Do we want to put any type of limit on this at all, a dollar limit?
Well, this is just to explore.
Yeah.
this is just to bring companies in.
We're not, yeah,
We got some good
no,
questions.
whatever it is, we just want a presentation.
You basically telling Donald, make sure you get somebody in here to talk to us by the next meeting.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. That's bottom line.
I'm gonna reserve judgment on this.
Abstain.
No.
Okay, we'll start with the committee, and if they're not here, they just won't answer. Laura Bedford. Paulette Burdick,
yes,
Tony Burrows.
Yes.
Cookie Courier. Ruth Dries.
Yes.
David Fornes.
Yes.
Richard Handelsman.
Yes.
Susan Saramac. Julia Silviger. Michael Zaslow.
Yes.
Fausto Favreau.
Yes.
David Boas, yes. Patricia
Yes.
Caputo. Dominic Carnaglia.
Yes.
Ellie Jansen. Stuart Richland.
Yes.
Doris Sutowski. David Israel. Joanne Robinson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Move to adjourn.
I have one thing to bring. Donald, do we have an approximate, we're looking into getting estimates on redoing the Plymouth Laundry and updating it to make it more functionable and not have as many issues. Do you have an approximate number that we should be putting in?
Not even close, with no way stand.
Would you say $100,000?
You can't do that.
I really don't know if that's, I don't like to throw it out there. And I'm usually pretty good at that, but.
No,
And being wrong too, but, we had David Boss and I brought Santos over to look at the interior of the laundry yesterday. He took some notes, he's gonna talk to an architect and an engineer, and he's gonna put together a package. We gave him some of our ideas, one of which is to install a high capacity, washer and a high capacity dryer for rugs and bedspread. There's a drainage issue that needs to be addressed and probably flooring. So we're not even, honestly, I wouldn't even say that, because I just don't know.
Well, we'll deal with that as a separate issue.
Yeah, when I got the number, I'll bring it. Right?
But it's something that the committee should be aware of, that we're looking into, and it's something that's gotta be done.
Yeah.
The updating of the bathroom, the drainage, by the way, when I was there with Brian, there was water all over the floor.
Yeah, I mean, the problem's not going away.
It's overflow from the trough that's in there.
So, I would imagine we'll have this number solid for you for the final version of the budget,
Okay.
alright?
Are we adjourned?
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, sorry it took so long, but.
No, hey, you covered an awful lot of. Certainly